Welcome to a podcast from Executive Change and TechMarketView, where we're going to talk about a new offering that we've brought to market called Tech User Connect. It's designed to enable tech suppliers to bring their propositions much more confidently to market. I am Georgina O'Toole, Chief Analyst of TechMarketView, and with me today is John Harris.
Yep, John Harris. I'm Managing Partner at Executive Change. I'm really excited with what we're doing with TechMarketView. Stay to the end of the podcast because you'll learn a lot more about how it works. But essentially, what we're launching will enable you to get the voice of the data around a new technology proposition and rapidly validate how that technology is coming to life within enterprises by hearing from 8 or 10 current technology leaders in major enterprises. You take those two and put it together, and you actually have something really differentiated. And the thing I'm really excited about is we can deliver this fast in a way that is going to bring real value to our vendors and clients.
And today, John, we want to give our listeners an insight into why Tech User Connect would be right for them, I think is fair to say. But before that, I think it'd be good to give people more of an understanding of what each of our individual companies do. So would you want to start with Executive Change?
Yeah, of course. So Executive Change have been running, I think, well over 20 years now. And what we do is we bring technology leaders from enterprises and mid-sized companies together to advise generally large tech companies. And our model's quite unique because what we do is we make sure that the events are not sales focused. They're actually advisory. They allow us to debate in some depth a particular issue or topic that's relevant to the vendor. But we also ensure that it's very relevant for the CIOs, CTOs, and CISOs around the table. So they come along with the hope that they'll learn from one another. And in doing so, they actually are able to give gems of insight into major tech companies. And we'll talk more as we go on, but this format lets us uncover nuances and insights that are often different to the perceived wisdom. When you get a group of senior leaders in a room debating an issue, you sometimes hear some very different things. So that's what we do. And that essentially is the voice of the customer part of the Tech User Connect offering.
Yes. And for those of you who don't know TechMarketView, we're the leading UK tech market analysts. We bring market intelligence and supplier intelligence to our client community. And we really pride ourselves on what we call the 3Ds. I think you've heard me talk about it before, John: data, depth, and disruption. So we offer our clients insight founded on our deep knowledge of the UK market and our extensive relationships across the industry, as well as our proprietary and unique data set. And bringing those two together, we're able to really cut through the hype and see what's really going on in the market and predict what's really set to disrupt things. Now, I think you had already heard of TechMarketView before we started forming this relationship, or maybe one of your colleagues had.
Yeah, no, very much aware of TechMarketView. You're an organisation that I've known well as an enterprise CTO. So also worth adding my background. I was chief architect at GlaxoSmithKline and then global CTO at the big Canadian loyalty company Amir, and then at Mundipharma. So as an enterprise technology leader, I was aware of TechMarketView. There are a number of different data sources out there, but the insight and the accuracy and the speed to new trends and to actually analyze them has always made TechMarketView stand out. And of course, you're used a lot by our clients. That whole voice of the data piece is very, very important, particularly when a new trend comes along. What does it really mean? Is it hype? Is it reality? How do we see it expanding at what pace? And indeed, the partnership, I think, was formed by one of our advisors who knows both TechMarketView and Exec Change well. And he pointed out, look, this is a match made in heaven. You have the voice of the customer coming through from Executive Change and the voice of the data. You actually put the two together, and it's a classic case where the sum is greater than the parts.
Yeah. And I think you actually approached us maybe 1-2 years ago. I can't remember now. And I have to hold my hands up. I personally hadn't heard of Executive Change, but as soon as me and my two partners, Deb Seth and Kate Hanahan, heard what you had to offer, we were immediately really impressed. It's that access you've got to the really high quality and vetted CXO community, and your experience of bringing those CXOs together in front of the suppliers that really stood out to us. And we could, I think, immediately see how bringing the two organisations together had real potential in terms of offering our clients something that was differentiated and could bring true value to them, I think.
Yeah, undoubtedly. And I think as well, for our CIOs and CXOs, there's a value in them I know primarily TechMarketView data is consumed by the vendor community, but actually it's very relevant for enterprise leaders as well. And a lot of those leaders typically rely on some pretty expensive research services from some of the big global players. Don't need to name them, but we know who they are. And they're good, they're helpful, but having something readily accessible that actually lets you validate and understand the UK market at a very different price point is, I think, another exciting opportunity. So, as we bring together this group of vendors, CXOs, CIOs, together with that data insight, I think there's something quite unique and quite special that we're going to be doing here.
Yeah, you're right. And we had already started to try and extend our end user contact and our end user community and our influence in that space. But I think this just further strengthens that for us and is already, I think, helping us to accelerate us on that journey of having more touch points across a wider range of industries in the sector as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think it's difficult to do both of these things from one organization. We're good at what we do. We're run typically by ex-CTOs and CIOs like myself. The meetings are always chaired by Exec Change, so that actually it is an Exec Change event rather than a vendor branded event. But the data and the insight there takes a huge amount of analysis and professionalism, which is what you guys do and do very well indeed. So, yeah, as I say, the two pieces coming together, we're confident there's something that's going to be great for our clients and for our members, and it will be differentiating, and I think will make a difference to tech in the UK.
Yes, I agree. And from my perspective, the executive change offering almost tops and tails what TechMarketView does. So we already, do what we do really effectively. But I think at the one end, we can take what's already our very extensive understanding of the tech market and kind of further enhance that with the conversations that you're able to enable for us with the end user community and help us to inform our views even more than we have done in the past.
Yeah, I mean, validation of some of the research is really, really important. If you take an area like artificial intelligence, there's predictions and data that you can make around what the technology is, how fast it will move, where the investments are going, where the potential opportunities may come. But then when you get a set of CIOs and CTOs in the room, you start to hear some of the other nuances, governance, for example. So there's no doubt the tech's powerful. How do you govern it effectively? How do you avoid data leakage? And these are issues that are just as relevant on the journey. So I think that sort of validation of, do you think AI will move at this pace? This is where we see the trend going. But is that going to manifest itself in your organization? We often hear, well, yes, it is, but here's 5 things that we need to overcome in our day-to-day operations before that becomes a reality. And those two insights together, I think, are valuable for the tech community.
Yeah, and actually, we've managed to kind of already test that part of the partnership from that perspective. So for any listeners that don't know us very well, we regularly produce something called the Market Readiness Index, which essentially assesses the readiness of tech suppliers to support their clients on their digital journeys. And that involves really extensive primary research, talking at many levels within the supplier community, but it also involves us really getting a good understanding of the ability of that supplier to really step up to the mark, deliver and execute effectively with their clients. So talking to the client, the supplier's clients is also really important to us as well. And what we've done with Executive Change is it's enabled us to talk to a far wider array of the end user community and really inform that opinion quite effectively. Give us an extra layer on top of our analysis. So
yeah, and I think what we start to see is very real use cases coming out. And one of the things I didn't touch on earlier is one of the things that Executive Change can do that is unique is bring folks together that you may not know as a vendor. So any vendor can reasonably easily run their own customer advisory board or their own customer groups. I mean, you know, it's a very normal thing to talk to your customers. But the thing that we're able to do is we have CIOs who are interested. Obviously, they're interested in the vendor and the topic, otherwise they wouldn't be there. But they're also very interested in learning from one another. And so we can call up folks and talk through with them the benefits of being a member of an advisory board, the benefits for their learning, for their own networks, for their, you know, future career visibility and so on. And they will join an advisory board. And so we can bring folks to the table that are not always known by some of the vendors. And then that's where you start to hear some very different learnings and use cases. You know, I know in the piece of work we've done already, the topic was around edge computing. And actually, it's not just the technology around the edge, it's what are people using it for? There are potential benefits that are outlined by the vendor, things they believe to be true. Are they really true? Are they solving the right problems? How is this going to manifest itself in a, you know, large manufacturing organization or a consumer goods distribution org? And they're all quite different. And you actually hearing and validating those real cases, warts and all, with people that you may not have met before is quite unique. And so, yeah, as I say, it's difficult to replicate. Our members join us because they want to be on advisory boards and they want all of the benefits, deeper relationships with the vendors and learning about their tech, but deeper relationships and learning from one another as well. And as I say, the work that we've done so far, marrying up the voice of the data, the client that we're working with that was already working with TechMarketView, we've been able to give them that enhanced insights, and they're very pleased with the outcome so far.
Yeah, and when I talk about top and tail, like you're talking about the tail bit now. So where we bring our analysis to life with our clients is when we work with them very closely to then develop their own strategies and their go-to-market and their value propositions and define those based, you know, with the foundations of the data backing that up. But then what working with you allows us to do is for them then to take that value proposition, put it in front of a whole host of CXOs and really validate that and make sure that it really is going to land well when they take it to market. So that's where I see the tail bit coming in.
Yeah, very much so. And I think it does come back again to, you know, when you do any kind of experiment or science, there is always an element of control to ensure that the conclusions that you've met are accurate. And I think one of the things that's happening with our involvement is it's actually giving that control measurement factor. And so here's what TechMarketView say based on data and analysis. Folks who are skeptical and think, yeah, okay, is that really going to happen? Is it really that way? Is that really the issue? Your control is validated by, well, we've put it in front of several enterprise leaders and they've had a discussion around it. And actually, yes, this is the trend. This is where we're heading. And, you know, I'm sure there'll be cases as well where we've missed something and we have that debate and it's like, okay, let's take that and then update and validate the research, you know, with a loop back. So I see a lot of these feedback loops that are going to happen, which then will drive the next stage of data research.
And that those CXOs can be either from a range of industries or from a specific industry, can't they? Maybe, I think it might be good for you to sort of explain how those advisory boards and forums work a bit.
Yeah. So getting into the nitty gritty, So most of our members are from the larger end of enterprises. We do run some boards for clients who specifically want small and medium enterprises, but typically we're looking at technology leaders. If we go back a few years, it used to be we were exclusively trying to get CIOs around the table. But we've realized now that CIO is a very, very important role. But in addition, in technology decision making, there's roles. The CTO is a subtly different role in many cases. Chief architect is hugely important. That role, the architecture role, pulling together these multiple different pieces as, tech works and evolves at a speed that is unprecedented, really, and it only seems to get quicker. So the architect that can join together the different pieces and do the thinking around the different vendor propositions is key. The CISO is a critical role these days as well. And then you often have data officers, heads of digital transformation, and a variety of roles. So we typically bring together strategic leaders from across enterprise, public and private sector. We would have members from large pharmaceutical organizations, financial organizations, both retail and corporate banking, the insurance sector. We would have government departments, NHS trusts, pseudo-public sector, so the folks like Network Rail, folks across the transport and aviation sector, airports, airlines. I mean, actually, you name it, we've got the kind of cross-section. And we typically will have a breadth of folks around the table. And that is partly because the CXOs themselves are interested in hearing from other sectors. So we don't usually say, we're going to do a board made up entirely of folks from big pharma life science, but we do sometimes do interlink groups. So we might do a board that is focusing on leaders from across the health industry, but you broaden it beyond life science. You might have some biotechs, some hospitals, some NHS trusts, some of the big charities that work in the medical space. The goal is really to get a breadth of debate around the topic and to actually get those learnings beyond what you might hear in one particular vertical. But a typical format, there is a board paper that is developed on a particular topic, and exec change work on that with the vendor, usually with an architect or a product manager or CPO in their org. We produce 3 or 4 pages summarizing, this is what we think the issue is. This is what our proposition is and what we're planning on doing. These are the questions that we've got that we would want to validate. And then obviously goes into some depth around the logic behind that. Our members will have all read that board paper before they arrive. We typically run 3 meetings a year for about 3 hours over dinner, face to face usually. And the normal format is the thought leader from the vendor will open up with 5 or 10 minutes, bringing the paper to life, sharing some of the case studies that they've seen with other clients, and outlining what they are hoping to listen to and where they want to learn. And then either myself or another former CIO will chair the meeting. So it's chaired neutrally. The vendor comes back in to offer their expertise and ask further questions, but we actually hear from the folks around the table. And then by the end of the meeting, we synthesize that discussion into reflections, feedback, next steps, advice for the client's takeaway. So they actually have a package of insight. It's all anonymous. We have Chatham House rules, but we're able to share some of the comments that were made and some of the learnings, which is a valuable package of insight. And as we said earlier, you couple that together with the hardcore data research, suddenly the insight around a topic is very different. So.
And all over dinner and a nice glass of wine.
All over dinner and a nice glass of wine.
Even better.
Yeah.
And what's great is we are already doing this, aren't we? So we've got a couple of clients on the go already. We're embarking on this journey with them, well, actually quite a long way through. And we can't name names of clients, but what we can say is we've now got a pretty good proof point that this concept does work, and we should be building up even more case studies over the next few months.
Absolutely. And one of the other things I'd add is that it's going two ways. So we've also got a couple of enterprises that are now consuming TechMarketView research and sharing them across their extended architecture team to say, look, if we have this data and compare and contrast it to the data services that we traditionally pay for in enterprise, does it give us more insight? Does it give us the same but at a vastly different price point? And so that's interesting as well, because TechMarketView probably weren't quite as well known in the enterprise world as they are in the vendor world, but there's no reason why not. That data is absolutely relevant to the folks that we've mentioned. The chief architect in particular is desperately looking for maps and guidance as they navigate through a really challenging landscape that becomes ever more challenging.
Exactly. Yeah, I think what we're showing is it's a very powerful two-way partnership. It works for both of us, which is the way partnerships should be, win-win. And what's really great is that when we stood up together at our event, TechMarketView Evening in September last year, and pitched this proposition, there was interest in the room straight away. I mean, I had at least half a dozen companies come up to me during the evening just to want to find out more about it. So I can see this really developing further. Yeah,
there's been huge interest, and that one event, you're absolutely right. It opened up a different line of thinking with organizations. And look, propositions and tech evolves all the time. And I think this is a natural evolution of what we both do as a proposition. And I think together we can answer a lot of the questions that vendors are wrestling with. And I think we're a catalyst to helping them move faster. It's not that we're answering questions that an organization couldn't solve on their own, but it would take them time and effort and very deep research. Actually, the ability to consume TechMarketView data, then run an advisory board and get all of those potential personas in the room in one evening, that's a real sort of kickstart.
All a neat package, and working with two very approachable organisations. So, and we're really keen to develop this relationship further. And I think what's also happened is that when your end user community has had a taste of the TechMarketView research, it's really fired them up as well. They've had a bit of a glimpse of it, and they now want to get more involved. So it's almost, was it self-perpetuating?
Yeah, it is. People are excited by it.
Yeah.
And it has the potential to be disruptive in a good way. It's a new offering, brings some new capabilities. We're both relatively small organizations, but very focused on what we do. And I think for large enterprises, there's a trust factor that you can win by doing these things well, and by being relatively small and not feeling the need to sell.
Yeah.
It's like, here's what we do. Is it helpful? Wonderful. If it's helpful, then that's great.
Exactly.
Let's do more of it.
Brings value.
If it's not helpful, then let's learn why not and go away and think about it, rather than try and, drive a mindset of, well, this is where you're not thinking about it the right way. But yeah, so far, everyone that we've put the TMV data in front of has come back to us and said, brilliant, what else is there? I'm working on this. This is this issue.
Yeah.
Can you find me some further data on it? So yeah, I think we're going to see that enterprise use of TMV extend as well, without a doubt.
And if someone now says to you, describe Tech User Connect to me in one or two sentences, how do you sum it up to them?
Voice of the customer and voice of the data at a speed that is very, very hard to replicate. And that's essentially it. You would get those two pieces together, the data and the voice of the people who may well be using this technology, and you'll get to that insight fast.
And I hope by putting a bit more, by bringing this to life a bit more through this discussion, that we've piqued more people's interest. obviously anyone listening can get in touch with either of us. All our details are on techmarketview.com, all our contact details. We'd be delighted to talk more to people about it. And I assume same goes for you as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, anyone within tech, so the vendors that are bringing new tech to market, we obviously would relish the chance to talk more deeply about how our insight can help. But also, if you're an enterprise technology leader and want to get involved with advisory boards and see the learnings that you get from others around the table, we're always open to new members who, are out there trying to look externally as well as just within their own orgs. Always very open to those kind of discussions.
Expanding that ecosystem.
Yeah, please
exactly.
get in touch.
Fantastic. Well, I think we can probably wrap up there, and maybe we could come back together in a few months' time when we've got a few more case studies under our belt and share some more stories.
Let's see where we've got
the value we've created.
Yeah, I think it's going to be exciting.
Excellent. Thank you, John.